In other awesome prototype video game news, Ian, something that most of us weren't aware of. I was not aware of this. A controller screen for the N64 controller was developed, early development. A prototype resurfaced after 20 years. And what this was you want to say this acted like a VMU. It was a LCD, a black and white little screen you popped into the top of your controller, where you pop in a rumble pack, and the little display for games. So originally this was spoken about in an EGM issue way back. On the page, this is why it's important. On the page there was two articles. The top of the page was Sega's secret system, developers to get black belt stations. On the bottom, N64 secret screen exposed. And it was a short interview with the inventor of the game handler joystick, Dane Galden, who came up with this creation. A mini screen that plugs into the port on the bottom of an N64 controller and allows you to select plays in sports games, all while hiding your strategy from your opponents. So it's just a little add-on. It's like a DS screen or a second add-on. You can look at. I can look at plays.
It's like the VMU on the Dreamcast.
Yes,
that's exactly what it is.
Yes, exactly.
It was used for the same thing,
but it was thought of before the VMU. That's what's so interesting about this. He says this idea goes back to my game handler days, my NES, Super NES days. That's when I came up with the concept, but I had to wait until the processors became more sophisticated and do multitasking. I may do it for the PlayStation, but Nintendo had the built-in port for their controller. They have the 8-bit bus on their bottom, blah, 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 blah. So he was hoping to get this out as an item. Obviously, you had to get developers to buy into this in order to incorporate. But this is a handy idea. So the theory is that the working theory, I don't know how true it is that Sega, people working at Sega, saw this article. They saw their article, then on the bottom of the screen, they saw this about the screen, and because of that, they thought of the idea for the VMU. That's this crazy theory. Who knows if it's true or not? But this is 3 years before this is years before the Dreamcast.
Yeah. So
I mean, it could be possible.
It could be, and the idea for it came about when this guy was playing sports games with his brother, and his brother would sneak a peek at
an asshole Kevin, sneak and peek at the.
Yeah. Bet you his brother's name is Kevin.
Probably named Kevin. Not
trying to cheat a little bit and catch a glimpse of the plays that they're picking. And that's one of the. That was the VMU was honestly, it was underutilized in the end on the Dreamcast, but one of the truly useful applications for the VMU was when playing the sports games like the NFL 2K series. You could pick your plays without anyone else seeing them. Excuse me. Jeez Louises.
Jeez Louises?
Jeez Louises.
So this came back into the public eye because a Twitter user, Shane Battier, shared some pictures of it, along with some of the history of it, and shows it. And the pictures he has shows it being functional. Like you can see some on his Twitter. You can see like a picture of the world on it. The next picture, you can see plays from the football game. You can barely make out, but you can see like the little dots and lines on it there. So the thing works. And there was even a product outline. So what happened was there was an eBay listing. This totally went under the radar. We didn't talk about this on the podcast. I didn't hear anyone talk about this. January 2018, only 2 years ago, this came up for auction for starting bid $5,000 or $10,000. Buy it now. There, and then it was the eBay listing was then taken down because probably someone made an offer on it for probably several $1,000s here, and got it. And so now you have these pictures coming out. I'm guessing from the source that bought it potentially years later. I guess here we don't have the information on where these pictures came from. I don't believe here. But at least this stuff is showing up. We know this existed, and it's good that this was preserved and saved. So that's fantastic here. And it's just another great find. I didn't hear about this at all. Yeah. I'm trying to think if this had come out for whatever, maybe it was like $20, $30, whatever a Rumble Pack cost back then. Was it like $20 for a Rumble Pack, $30? Maybe a little bit more money. Would Nintendo would they have bought into the idea?
Probably not. I don't think they would have. Nintendo doesn't generally support third-party stuff like that, and even Sega. I mean,
that's radically different because there was third-party Rumble Packs, right?
Well, yes, but that was that was based on something that
they had
Nintendo
done.
had already did.
Gotcha.
And even the Rumble Pack, it's not like Nintendo supported that wonderfully. I mean, I don't think it was used, I don't think it was used very often at all in Nintendo stuff. And then, like I said, flash forward to the Dreamcast. Sega thought this was a neat idea and did one, themselves and supported it miserably. It's one of those ideas that sounds cool, but in practice, how much can you actually use it for? And when you're like in a development cycle and you've got to get these games out, are you really going to dedicate time to people, programming something for this? That's, like I said, especially if it's third party, that how many people are actually going to pick up? I mean, the memory card for the Dreamcast was a VMU, and they still didn't. I mean, everyone had one, and they still didn't use it.
It was a cute little thing. You had little mini games on some of it. For some of the games, you had some animation.
There was a handful, or a little logo or animation that popped up on the screen.
It was just like
representing the game you were playing.
A beefed up memory card, though. And this goes back to what I always say.
Sony had the Pocket Station that didn't even come out over here, and I mean that wasn't used very much at all.
I think it comes back to
neat ideas that just never panned out.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what I always maintain is that it's very unintuitive and unfun to look back and forth from your TV, what you're looking at, and your controller. It just is. It's distracting, and unless it's a slower type of game, like it probably
even the Wii U didn't do it very often.
Yes, they didn't really do it. Unless it's like two screens really close, like on a 3DS or DS,
sure,
where you can see it right there. It's just not. It's not immersive. It's just not fun.
If you have to move your neck, that's the problem. If you just have to flick your eyes up and down, it's not such a big deal.
But it's still not as immersive. I thought when the Wii U was first announced, I thought there'd be all these cool uses for it, with having having multiplayer games where you're doing different things with on the screen versus the tablet. They didn't do that almost at all. So. The nuts and bolts of video game playing is look at one place and play. Like that's unfortunately what it is. And what do they do when you're playing multiplayer Madden nowadays with two people on the screen? Oh, I think you click the button, so you have a choice of like 5 plays, so your opponent doesn't know which of the 5 plays you.
That's what I'm fairly certain it is. Yeah.
Or like hotkey it. That makes sense.
Most people play online these days, so it's not even that big of a deal. They just have their own screens.
Okay, there you go. All right, well, this is great for video game preservation. Hopefully it's obviously it's taken care of. We have the history of it. I would love if there was a follow-up on someone interviewed at Sega to say like, oh yeah, we saw that article. We were developing the Dreamcast, and we're like, this is a cool idea. We're going to take this and do it ourselves, because sometimes inspiration happens like that.